Hello, kind ladies and gracious men. Welcome. Let's talk about politics.
Georgetown.
The United Kingdom is having a general election next week, and I won't be voting in it. I understand that's quite a controversial decision for some people, so I'll try and explain myself as best as I can. Bear in mind, I'm not trying to convince anyone else they shouldn't vote. It's just how I feel, so let's see what you think. I've sat down and tried to film a bunch of videos about the fundamental problems with democracy as I see it, and our political system as a whole. About how it rewards perceived popularity over actual results. The way that it encourages dishonesty in politics. The way that it encourages negativity. The way that it discourages boldness and bravery and doing the right thing in favour of appeasing the immediate whims of the general populace. But it ended up becoming kind of long and ponderous, so if you want to discuss that, let's do it in the comments below, or you can ask me a question on my Ask FM, there's a link in the description. It's kind of interesting, but I can't make a 5-minute video about it. I also haven't really come up with a fully coherent alternative plan. I mean, I haven't really tried, to be honest. So I don't feel like I could complain about that, really. I like to just sit back and stay out of it as best as possible. I like to educate myself, watch, learn, and not vote. Now I understand that's an incredibly privileged position to be in, to feel like I don't have to engage. I don't feel oppressed by our current political system. I just feel like it's rubbish. I don't think it's dangerous. I just think it's rubbish. And I would never tell anyone who wants to vote not to vote. If you feel like your vote is important to you, please use it. I just don't feel like I can vote. And what it comes down to ultimately is that I don't want to vote for anyone. I just don't want to. I'll explain why in a moment, but first of all, a couple of FAQs and a bit of myth busting. I occasionally get asked, why don't you just spoil your ballot? Why don't you just vote for none of the above? The reason I don't do that is that I feel like that's still an endorsement of the system as is. If you spoil your ballot paper or you just put none of the above at the bottom, yes, you are refusing to endorse any of the individual candidates, but you're saying, I would like to endorse another candidate, just none of these. You're saying, I like the system, I don't like any of these people. What I'm saying is I don't like the system because it inevitably begets these unvotable for candidates, these simpering, lying weaklings. I don't want to endorse the system. I want the system to change before I will put my vote to anything. Because this is a bit of a myth, I think, that people who don't vote don't care. I think just as many people who do vote don't care. I think a lot of people vote apathetically. They say, oh, I like his hair, I'll vote for him, or, oh yeah, my family's always voted this way. That's so rubbish. That's at least as apathetic as people who sit and think about it and decide that they don't want to endorse any of the candidates or the system at large. A lot of people are banding about this statistic that at the last election more people didn't vote than voted for any individual party, including the parties that won in the end, the Conservative Party being the sort of main party. More people voted for no one than voted for the Conservatives, and yet David Cameron's Prime Minister. Now a lot of people are using that statistic to suggest that the people who don't vote could drastically change the face of politics. I've got two problems with that, right? First of all, it assumes that people who don't vote would vote differently than the people who do vote. I think they vote broadly the same on average, so there would just be more votes adding up to the same percentages. Secondly, there's this presumption that people don't vote because they can't be bothered. And so this huge swathe of the population who may well be saying something very clear in their silence are ignored. How big does the percentage of non-voters have to get before people take it seriously as a part of the vote? I don't know. If more than half of the population didn't vote, would they throw out the system and think about a new one? Would they change the way that we elect people? Why isn't nobody Prime Minister if more people voted for nobody than David Cameron? Don't know. Anyway, the second frequently asked question is, people fought for your right to vote. Don't you feel it's your responsibility? No, I absolutely don't. People fought for my right to marry another man as well, and I'm very grateful to have that right, but that doesn't mean I have to use it. So definitely stop bullying people about voting, because part of the right to vote is the right to withhold your vote, and I think that's as important a part of the democratic process as casting a vote is. Anyway, on to the meat of the reason why I personally won't be voting. The nub of it is I just don't want to. I don't want to put my name behind any of this. It breaks down into basically two parts. Firstly, my ignorance. I don't feel qualified to cast a vote. The economy and the larger social structure of this country are vastly complicated things, and I don't think I know enough about them to get it right. And I'm a reasonably well-educated, reasonably intelligent person. I still don't feel anywhere near qualified to make the right decision. So I would be afraid if I voted that I'd be voting for completely the wrong thing. What if I voted for something and it turned out to be unbelievably stupid and to bankrupt or ruin this country in some way? I'd feel pretty silly. Secondly, even if I could know the right answer about how the country should be run, how do I trust whichever party I choose to vote for to carry out their aims successfully. And I'm not even talking about dishonesty really, I'm just talking about changes in circumstance. How do I know that 3 or 4 years down the road what we thought was the right idea initially turns out not to be? How do I know that someone won't change their mind later on and do something completely different? How can I think that I know the innermost feelings of these people? If I help to place someone in power, I want to know for sure that they won't turn around in 3 or 4 years and say that being gay is wrong, or that the arts are a waste of time and money. Because again, if I help to elect someone who later on turns around and does something crazy, I would feel really stupid. So my decision is that I'm not going to vote. I'm just going to sit back, watch, see what happens, safe in the knowledge that the world is going to be more or less exactly the same whoever wins the election. I don't think the parties are particularly different. They're all kind of forced by the very nature of our political system to encamp themselves in the safest, broadest middle that they possibly can and avoid extremism, read boldness, at all costs. So even putting aside for the moment the fact that my vote doesn't really matter because I live in a safe seat, and so the very mechanics of our electoral system make my vote null and void, and millions of other people's votes around the country null and void, I don't think my vote matters because the outcome of the election doesn't matter. It won't make any serious difference what happens after this election. The country will continue to plod along in a sort of negative, sort of boring, kind of okay way. And that's a shame, but voting's not going to change that. As I say, I'm in a position of relative privilege. I don't feel particularly oppressed by the political system as is, I just feel tired of it. But I know there are people who do feel oppressed by it, and I think if you really want to make a difference, if you really want to change the way that this country works, your best bet is not to vote for one party or another, but to follow WeNeedVoices on Twitter. It's a campaign run by my excellent friend Stephen that I'm doing social media for, and I should say it doesn't advocate not voting. The campaign's not about not voting, that's just my personal view. The campaign is about a constitutional convention, a citizen-led event to take place after the election, which will discuss and educate about constitutional issues, issues of a fundamental nature relating to our political system. If you think that the fundamental nature of politics in our country needs to change, and frankly who doesn't, you should follow this on Twitter, find out more about it. There's links in the description. You can submit your ideas, you can talk to us about it all. It's terrific fun, and it's really going to make a difference. Anyhow, I'm certain I haven't raised half of the sensible issues that I wanted to in this video, so please ask questions in the comments. I'll try and answer them intelligently. We'll do, you know, really pleasant chat, shall we? Brilliant. Vote if you want to. I'm not going to. That's fine. Let's have a good election, guys. Talk to you down there.